ma è bellissima.
Sa fare tutto.
Probabilità si avrebbero di vincere.
Una su 20.
Erano amici di tuo marito.
Addio.
Ah, dimenticavo. Le iscrizioni sono aperte.
The movie starts with Francesca, who wakes up to the sound of the telephone. After answering, she quickly calls her husband's lawyer, Cesare, and meets him. On a rainy night, they drive down a dark road and come across police officers near a wrecked, smoking car. Cesare tells them Francesca is the wife of the car's owner, so they are allowed to enter the scene. Inside, they meet a judge who guides them to the inquest. Francesca and Cesare first see a lifeless body, but Francesca insists it is not her husband. In another room, however, she confirms that the dead man is indeed her spouse. At home, Francesca's child sleeps peacefully while she remains in shock. Later, in church, the priest blesses her husband's body. People notice Francesca's beauty, and an elderly man nearby stares at her. Francesca's father asks if she plans to return home, but she says no, explaining that moving would traumatize her child, who is attached to their house and community. She adds that, even though it's just her and her child now, they still receive love and support where they live. Her father reminds her that he stayed single after her mother's death so he could raise Francesca, and then pressures her for money. Francesca explains she can only give a little because of her financial problems and her lack of access to her husband's accounts. He insists on the importance of family before leaving. Francesca later visits her husband's lawyer, who reveals that her husband left huge debts from a failed port tourism business. If it had succeeded, he could have made millions, but supplier and designer issues ruined it. The lawyer warns that the debt now passes to Francesca and her daughter as heirs. Insurance won't help, since her husband broke rules, and the trucker's family might even sue her. Cesare adds that her husband once canceled his insurance for money, and despite attempts to stop him, he went through with it. When Francesca asks about selling properties, Cesare says most have already been sold or pawned. He advises her not to sell her house since she lives in it and also rents part of it, but she can sell what's left of the other properties. Back home, Francesca tells her helper Rosaria that she may need to let her go because she can no longer pay her salary. Francesca's helper, Rosaria, refused to leave. She said she would stay even without pay because she liked it there. In other houses she worked in, all she did was iron, wash clothes, and clean dishes all day. Francesca reminded her she could earn money elsewhere, but Rosaria replied that if she had money, she would lend it to Francesca. She added that Francesca was too beautiful to live alone. The next day, Francesca visited Christina to thank her for giving her a job. Christina took her to the workplace and introduced her to the staff. Francesca's friends, Carla and Serena, also showed up there and were surprised to see her working. Francesca offered to help them, but they declined and said they were happy for her. Carla mentioned wanting to buy a green coat, and Francesca assisted her. Suddenly, Guido appeared and tried to kiss Francesca. Christina saw it, stepped in, and scolded Guido, who stormed off angrily. Christina then apologized to Francesca. The following day, Cesare met Francesca by the seaside and had her sign papers for his yacht's registration. Francesca showed him a key she found in her late husband Mauricio's drawer, thinking Cesare needed it. Cesare then gave her a check, which surprised her because the amount was less than expected. He explained that although the yacht was worth more, it was old, and that was all he could afford. After saying goodbye, Cesare admired the yacht he had bought from her. Francesca continued selling Mauricio's belongings. When Carla and Serena saw men carrying out items from her house, they suggested auctioning them instead of selling to an antique dealer. Francesca agreed and planned to auction everything, jewelry, clothing, and shoes, on the condition that her house wouldn't be damaged. The auction began with many guests attending. Francesca entertained them, and one client asked about a black dress she once wore to a party. Since she was wearing it that day, she took the client to the restroom, removed the dress, and gave it to her as a gift. Later, Francesca returned home and found Rosaria cleaning. She asked if anyone had called, and Rosaria said Carla, Serena, and the landlord's secretary had. The secretary mentioned that a gentleman would visit Francesca that evening. That night, several men arrived in cars. One introduced himself as Enrico and invited Francesca out. At the restaurant, they ate and talked. Enrico complimented Francesca's beauty and mentioned that Cesare had said the same, calling her perfect. Confused, Francesca wondered why Cesare had never told her this himself. Enrico told Francesca he was a lonely man and wanted her to bring joy to his life. When Francesca asked about his family, he said his wife and children were in Rome. He admitted he wanted a woman to share his struggles, victories, and daily life, and he wanted that woman to be her. Enrico also said Cesare had told him about her problems, and he offered to help by paying her rent, giving her an allowance, and supporting her child's education. He added that while others could give her material things, he could give her unique and exciting experiences. Curious, Francesca mentioned she didn't even own a car, watching how he would react. The next morning, Francesca spoke with their landlord, who reminded her they hadn't paid rent in over a year. Shocked, since she thought it was only 3 months, she apologized and promised to pay soon. As she left, the landlord kissed her hand and looked at her with desire. That evening, Francesca went on another date, this time with a commander. He gave her a diamond necklace, saying she deserved it. Francesca guessed it was only a copy, but the old man insisted it looked just like the original. After he left, Francesca wandered the room and discovered his dentures, which made her drop the necklace. Later, she laughed about the story with her friends Carla and Serena. During their chat, Carla's husband, Sandra, called. Francesca noticed Carla's coat in her own wardrobe and asked about it. Serena teased her, saying Francesca had actually sold the coat at her auction and Carla had simply altered it by removing the fur. Later, Francesca invited Sandra to her house. When he arrived, she asked if Carla knew he was there. He said no. Sandra pressed her about why she called him over, and she admitted she felt lonely and couldn't bear it anymore. They became intimate. Afterwards, Sandra declared his love for her, confessed his hatred for his wife, and promised to do anything for Francesca. Francesca, however, demanded something in return. She wanted her saber back, knowing Sandra had it. Sandra claimed it was Carla's idea, but Francesca insisted he give her something new instead. When he hesitated over the cost, she told him he owed her for what happened between them that night. Angry, Sandra dressed and tried to leave, but Francesca gave him until the next day. She warned that if he refused, she would tell Carla the truth about their affair and his cruel words about her. The next day, Francesca had Sandra's coat delivered to her. She then said goodbye to Serena, asking her to wait for her. Francesca went to a shop, sold the coat Sandra had sent her, and used the money to pay the landlord and her child's school fees. While Francesca was fixing her hair at home, Carla visited. She told her that Sandra couldn't afford the sable coat. He had only paid part of it and planned to cover the rest in installments. Since Carla knew the store owner, she arranged that if Francesca returned the coat, the remaining debt would be erased. Carla then asked where Francesca had taken the coat. Francesca admitted she sold it and used the money to pay rent, daycare for her child, and to buy a used car. She explained she had no choice because of her situation. Carla didn't believe her and accused her of being happy sleeping with Sandra. Francesca, however, was shocked to learn from Carla that her late husband Mauricio had also cheated on her with a woman named Camilla. Everyone knew about it except Francesca. That night, unable to sleep, Francesca decided to confront Camilla the next day. When she met Camilla, the woman openly confessed to the affair. She said she once made Mauricio choose between her and Francesca, but he still chose Francesca. Furious, Francesca stormed out, tore up their photos, and flushed her wedding ring down the toilet. Later, Francesca told Cesare she wanted to raffle herself off, insisting many men would be interested. Though reluctant, Cesare eventually agreed and asked about the details. Francesca explained the lottery ticket would cost 100 million for 4 years, with odds of 1 in 20. Cesare questioned her disregard for her reputation, but Francesca said she no longer cared what people thought. Cesare then spread the news of the raffle. One evening, they attended a party so people could see Francesca. Many guests were curious, some wanted to join. Enrico approached Francesca there, declaring he wanted to participate. Even Julius's grandmother heard about the raffle. After the party, Cesare told Francesca the raffle was a success, with most participants being friends of her late husband. They also requested to spend time with Francesca to get to know her better. Soon, she met one of them in a sauna. The next day, an anonymous registrant asked to see her body. Francesca went to his mansion, undressed in front of a mirror while he watched through a small opening in the door. Curious afterward, Francesca peeked through the opening and saw his face. Meanwhile, other participants met with Cesare to discuss the rules and terms of the raffle. Cesare explained everything clearly and made deals with them. After making deals with the raffle participants, Francesca met another man so he could evaluate her. One day, Julius's grandmother visited Francesca, demanding custody of Julia to protect the child from the shame Francesca was bringing. Francesca fought back, saying that when she struggled to provide for her daughter, the family was never around, and now they only cared about their reputation. The argument escalated, and her mother-in-law threatened to sue, but Francesca ignored her and left. Later, Francesca met Mr. Neri, a potential participant, who took her on a tractor ride to his garden. During their talk, he realized Francesca was only there for money and dismissed her. When Francesca returned home, Julia greeted her with a board game called the Raffle. Francesca asked where it came from, and Julia said Serena's child had given it to her. The next day, Francesca tried to speak with Serena at school, but Serena was upset and revealed that her husband, Gustavo, had joined the raffle. Shocked, Francesca claimed she didn't know. Serena refused to listen, accused her of lies, and drove away. Disturbed, Francesca went to Gustavo's office. Though he was in a meeting, he stepped out to speak with her privately. Francesca asked him not to participate, but Gustavo refused, saying almost all of her late husband's friends were already involved. Despite her pleas, he wouldn't back down. That evening at another party, Francesca ran into Camilla, who told her she wanted to join the raffle because she had grown interested in Francesca herself. Alarmed, Francesca rushed to Cesare and begged him to cancel the raffle. Cesare told her it was too late, but suggested they could fix it so he would win. Francesca said that was impossible, but Cesare insisted he would find a way. They almost kissed, but Cesare's girlfriend interrupted, and Francesca quickly left. The next day, Francesca bumped into a man named Antonio. Seeing he was hurt, she brought him to her house to care for him. Francesca sent Rosaria to take Julia to school so she could help him. When he tried to stand but collapsed, once they were alone, Antonio pretended to faint again. Francesca realized he was faking, dismissed him, then suddenly removed her underwear and sat on him. When Rosaria returned, she couldn't find Francesca and only discovered her underwear. Later, Francesca and Antonio spent time together at the beach. Back home, Antonio tried to stop her from going inside, confessing his love for her. Francesca teased him, rejected his feelings, and walked into the house smiling, leaving him behind. The next night, Francesca met with Enrico, who told her he had to quit the raffle because of threats to his job. During their meeting, Antonio kept interrupting and pulling pranks on Enrico until he lost his temper. Enrico dragged Antonio out, and Francesca followed, finding Antonio on the ground with a bloody nose. She took him home, where Antonio confessed his love over and over. Francesca kept refusing, but eventually gave in, and they made out that night. The next day, Francesca met another participant who showed her a wedding dress and asked her to wear it. Though reluctant, she did and walked in front of him and his friends. Later, at home, Francesca caught Antonio playing with Julia. She called him aside, and they spent time together. The following morning, Francesca rushed to leave. Antonio asked why, and she told him they wouldn't see each other again. Shocked, he asked if even after 4 years they wouldn't meet. Francesca realized Antonio had set everything up for the raffle prize and decided to end things with him. Meanwhile, the police started investigating the raffle after an anonymous complaint. They found 19 checks under Francesca's name, raising suspicion against Cesare for promoting prostitution, gambling, and running an illegal lottery. Cesare gathered the participants and explained that Francesca had denied everything, which protected them all. Francesca was then interrogated by the prosecutor, who asked about the checks. She claimed they were support from her late husband's friends to help raise her child. When pressed about the raffle prize, she lied that Cesare donated his yacht, which satisfied the prosecutor. Even her lawyer admired her quick thinking. Later, the participants thanked Francesca for covering for them. Though they regretted the money they had lost, they were relieved to avoid prison. With nearly $2 billion, Francesca, her child, and Rosaria decided to move abroad for a new life. When the prosecutor asked who won the raffle, Francesca said she never asked. She walked away with her child and Rosaria toward the airplane, and the movie ended.
And that's the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Comment down below what movies do you like us to recap next. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.